Correct.
It's, you know, it's still up in the air. It is red side though for Millenium, which means with the prevalence of Kog'Maw, you would assume they'll ban it because it's a first pick.
Okay.
Lulu is another one of those picks.
Yeah.
We know that SK played it last week, so I think you have to ban that away, otherwise you risk the Caitlyn pick as well.
Last time SK were red side, they Lulu Lucian first rotation, and if I remember correctly, it was also very quick lock-in, so we'll need to see if they get their hands on one of those. Power bans at the moment. Fiora Callista taken off the table from SK to Millenium. Millenium slowing it down with just GP.
So Callista, we know Vardags doesn't really play it anyway, so it's now gone across. Wow, SK actually banned the Lulu out themselves. That's really intriguing. So what this is doing is stopping the response of like a Lulu Lucian setup that I think you were alluding to already. So they're looking to get the Kog'Maw, don't want to give away too much. So right now they're happy to get the Gragas over to Millenium. They're not going to be too bothered about that. And then look for something like a top laner or maybe a strong flex. Alistar would be open as well.
Well, the Nidalee is available as well. Okay, Brahma's weird. Targeting that towards Unlimited. It is his most played champion at 3 games. Now, first bait. First pick, bait, that's the question. Do Millenium have a counter? So
at this point, Braum, to me, there is a minor interaction, fairly major, with Gragas. So you want to deny the protection from the Unstoppable, the Unbreakable, so you can't barrel past it. Now they get the Gragas, that makes sense if you want to try and target the Kog'Maw. There are still so many champions that will protect that Kog, though. We saw a very good combat of Vitality with the Tahm Kench that was so strong at protecting that Kog'Maw. That's still available here.
It is, but I think Millenium have got 2 great champions at disruption. Kog has to stand still, plant his legs, and spit for days. Poppy's going to boot him away, knock him back, body slam plus barrel from Gragas. Like, all of the tools that you would want to get rid of a living artillery spitting monster is available to Millenium. So now we need to see if they've got the coordination to pull that one off. Come on, you don't need more attack speed for Kog'Maw. Like a Nidalee buff as well.
Heal works nicely, though. Nidalee is one of the junglers that can start to pressure out of Gragas in the early game until Gragas has Strength of the Ages stacked up, and then either Runic Echoes or Cinderhulk, he is susceptible to the early game impact. That's one of the real drawbacks that we were talking with Deficio about on the LCS that didn't always come about, but certainly has to be recognized.
Well, Sleeping's going to get his hands on Shen once again, 3 games in a row after subbing in for Morsu. His stats 6, 2, and 22 on that champion last weekend with the Nidalee and the Cog. Look, it worked for SK last week. They were able to pick up those wins in a protect the AD carry composition, and they're building it once again.
So right now, the Lulu is off the table as a protection mid laner, so I wonder what SK will look from the mid lane now. Will they look for something like a control mage, like a Victor, to provide another damage threat, and then either the Janna or the Tahm Kench from the support role? I wonder whether they'll go for Engage or Peel, which has now actually been taken off the table with the Alistar going over to Millenium.
I wonder if Janna might not be the better option. So pretty locking in Twisted Fate. This is a direct steal from Suno.
Yes,
because it's been banned against him, I believe, in every single game except this one. So pick it away. Let's see if Suno wants to run an assassin into it. That's the obvious answer to a TF. But again, look at this. Disengage from Alistar. You can just Destiny him behind. Millenium, every single one of their champions can get to Kog'Maw.
Yeah, this actually reminds me quite a bit of, I think, a game Ryu played on Twisted Fate into Victor when H2K were playing at the end of last season, where he would just trade himself for the enemy carry. And yes, it's a 1-for-1 trade, but if all of their damage is gone, then that's a teamfight 1 for your team. So you make that proactive trade, neutralize the rest of the team comp. So now it's on Millenium. They have held their AD carry till last pick. I wonder what they're looking for. They could just Lucian here. So SK hovering the Fizz. That's an old counter matchup for Twisted Fate.
And it's one that we'll have to see if Suno can play. Looking down his stats, he doesn't have a lot of assassins. Corki, Syndra, Lulu, Victor. So this is quite a thematic shift for him as a player, but it's one that is as old as competitive league assassin into TF, so he should have experience.
And not only that as well, the Fizz matchup specifically, because Fizz neutralizes a lot of what TF wants to do with his gold card, the lockdown potential, the Q potential. You just jump over it with the Playful Trickster. Fizz hasn't been meta in a while, though, which is why I think we just haven't seen it in general. He also got changed to be more of an AD bruiser and then received a couple more tweaks since that, so I'm interested to see where his damage output lays, especially in a mid lane here. What it will provide SK is another damage threat and a side lane threat to control any kind of 1v1s off the other side of the map. So there are a couple of interesting things at play here from SK, and Millenium, they've kind of gone fairly standard. It's only really the Twisted Fate that is different to what I would expect.
Yeah, it really is. I do like the fact that SK have got themselves some tools to at least deal with TF if they go for that 4-1 option, but I really want to see Millenium's coordination with this team composition, because if they can get to Vardags with a lot of the tools that they have, I think this is going to be tough for SK Gaming. You know, they're 2-6. Last week was the first time they actually picked up any victories, but it was in a protect the AD carry style. It was with sleeping on Shen, and it was at Vardags on a scaling ADC. They've got that again.
They have got that again. Now the question is, though, have Millenium righted the ship? Have they got over everything? Because we know Millenium are an early game excelling team, especially in the 2 versus 2. So there are questions now for, as this game starts, how this kind of goes between RSK from last week better than Millenium from last week, or are we at different points now?
It's interesting, right? Because both teams had an opposite week 4.
Yeah.
Right? SK, who had lost everything to that point, then won in maybe emphatic fashion. It was an uplifting victory for the team, and Millenium got crushed.
Yeah.
You know, it was up against Inspire, so it was a difficult matchup, let's be fair. But for a team that was looking as good as they were, that was a rude awakening. So now we see who bounces back. Does SK keep the momentum? This is the point we're going to remind you about tiebreakers. We're going to be doing this a lot, so I apologize. If SK and Millenium draw this series, we are on path for the darkest timeline of potentially 10 tiebreakers. If you guys want that to happen, you have to jump on Twitter right now and vote #SKWin, and then change it to #MILWin for the next game.
Just put both, because then that's 1 for game 1, 1 for game 2. But we are headed on to the Rift for this game, and what could be the beginning of a road to tiebreakers.
So, the road to tiebreakers. Let's see how many we land on. Potential tie for first, potential tie for fourth, in fact. So both of them with very big playoff implications.
So there's one aspect of this match now that I'm very interested in, and that is the weak spot of a Kog'Maw. Typically, it's just before you hit that Guinsoo's Rage Blade. You sat on Blasting Wand, you sat on Pickaxe, and it can be fairly difficult to exploit. But the thing that I like that Millenium have got here is, not only have they stolen the TF away from Suno, TF's level 6 and those subsequent levels with that first ultimate is right on par with when Vardags is at his weakest point in the game. The protection is fairly low. Yes, Sleeping will probably have his ultimate to come into that fight as well, but you could look to snowball that 2v2 bot lane with that Twisted Fate, with Joko as well, fairly effectively in the early game. That's what I'm looking to see whether Millenium actually do that. They may just choose to have Pretty go top and help Kaze get ahead.
They've definitely got to play their cards right, though, because the risk of Shen popping in with Stand United and the fact that Suno's running TP, I think there's going to be a lot of parties in this bottom lane.
Yes.
And I feel like everybody is going to be invited. So let's find out if it's Hunt Summer or Vardags that's going to get their advantage. We've got standard lanes here. Stress. No shenanigans early on. And it looks like Vardags and the Limited going to start themselves off on the Krugs. You can see it's been mirrored by Hunt Summer and Masterwork on the Gromp, as it were. So we'll have to see who's going to pull themselves ahead. But as it stands, slow and steady laning phase. So wait for 6 and then let's play.
Oh, flash in from Masterwork.
He's in trouble. It's an Unlimited that gets booted backwards. Exhaust is down. Hunt Summer make it a level 2 all in. The advantage was theirs. And Unlimited gets away with his life. Hunt Summer treading on the edge of danger, but Millenium, confident play.
Millenium, yeah, as you said, confident play. And this is the possibly worst case scenario for SK right now, is being in this 2 versus 2 in the bottom lane. We've spoken about how good Millenium normally are, and this is a very solid bot lane. Alistar Lucian is fairly difficult for a Cog to deal with this early, and you see they didn't go on Vardags because Vardags at that point just gets shielded by the Janna, and then they're not really overly punished. They go on the Janna because she's too far forward at that point. Go through the shield, burn through it, get both summoners, in fact get 3 of the 4 in bottom lane. So Millenium have themselves the summoner advantage.
Good stun from Kaze onto Sleeping. He's got himself an advantage in this lane, however it's pushing very heavily, so Sleeping's going to need to CS under tower. And for Hunt Summer and Masterwork, we called them out in the pregame. Talked about how last week was not a good week for Hunt Summer and Masterwork. They've started themselves off well, but they've got to make this count even more because of just the amount of headroom that Vardags will have on the Kog'Maw. But I think itemization-wise, until he gets that Rage Blade, it's going to still be advantages for Hans Summer's Lucian.
Ooh. Joko. They have to burn the playful trickster here if they want to try and gank. Not really effective ganking a Fizz while he has a flash and that E up. And Suno knows it.
Yeah, it's such a difficult thing to do.
Throwing out a few taunts. Kaze's got a good read on the fact Joko's there. Good block on the dash. Was just going over to try and ward, I think, but figured out the information for himself before he even got there.
Yeah. Doko doing well. Cleared out his jungle, starting the invade. The clear speed on Nidalee is quite special. I think that's what I'll use to explain it, but going to be continue putting pressure now towards mid.
And that's one of the biggest strengths for Nidalee right now, is not just her early potential to trade in the jungle, but because we actually have fairly few jungler interactions with each other, it's all about that clear speed. Clear the jungle, take your enemy jungle as soon as you have the information of where they are, and leave them behind on experience and farm. Puts yourself at an advantage, puts the rest of your team at an advantage because of the way that you can utilize traps and wards early on in the game to get that jungle vision, deny ganks.
Doko's doing okay at that so far. Joko up to level 4, got the poacher's knife picked up, and we've got ourselves in for a nice, comfortable laning phase. So when we saw Cogmore in the LCS, it was lane swaps to get some early tower gold and sort of accelerate that mid game. I think Vardags will be relatively happy. A safe laning phase until he actually eats a headbutt pulverize. Has he gone too far? Hans Summer's got flash and heal. Eye of the Storm has been used to save Vardag's life. Teleport will complete from sleeping. Masterwork might get caught down. In fact, it was Suno that teleported in, and he takes a lot of damage. Masterwork's got full combo available, and that was a complete waste from Suno.
I'm really surprised that teleport actually completed there from Suno. Not only because they don't get any gain from it there, but I was kind of looking and seeing what was mirrored. So Pretty has Ignite into Suno's TP here. So while that's not a lane matchup, what that means is Pretty on that level 6 point. What we were talking about was that snowball for bottom lane. Now pair that with a Twisted Fate with Ignite. He shows up, lands the gold card, Ignite goes on, damage from the AD carry should convert to a kill for SK, and Suno cannot answer it. They're going to have to rely on sleeping with his teleport, with his ultimate, to try and even up that exchange in the bottom lane that is coming in the next minute or so.
So pressure for sleeping to save somebody's life. We'll see how quick he can pull the trigger on Stand United. Pretty does have access to Destiny, the Twisted Fate ultimate. We caught a glimpse of Joko putting some good wards into SK's jungle, and as Joker's coming to clear out his own, we'll realize that Doc Go has cleared out the wolf camp and the gigantic frog. Fisher likes to talk about that in the office quite a lot. But very good start. Doco, 31 CS to the 15 of Joko. Oh, those names are going to... it's really going to trip me out, dude.
Now I realize why you're here for this game and Pulse isn't, because Pulse was like, oh, I can't. When these two play each other, I'm just going to fall apart. So Pulse clearly just passed the buck on to you and is just like, hey, you deal with this now. So he will be joining us later in the broadcast. Just didn't want to tongue-tie himself, I guess, over this game.
Yeah,
but
decided to trip me up.
The CS difference, again, is just from the counter-jungling of .go from that Nidalee. But it's really the only lead right now. There is a lead in top lane for Millenium, but mid lane is in Millenium's favor. Sorry, it's top lane lead for SK right now on CS.
And of course, Pretty being left alone in the lane, Suno wasting his TP. Part of the reason. Here's the itemization power spike that Hans Summer's going to be happy with. BF sword into pickaxe. 20 CS advantage. It's allowing Millenium to give themselves a very strong lead. Sleeping teleports directly to a minion.
Right, and actually, I don't really like that TP. So what that was from Sleeping was he wants to absorb the wave, the cannon wave that's pushing into his tower. So he's like, I can't really afford this experience going to waste. I can't really leave that farm. Suno's trying to roam up himself. Problem is now, if Millenium do coordinate this play, it means Sleeping can't answer the push from Kaze that will come when he uses his ultimate to go down to the bottom lane. So there is this window now from SK where they should have triple globals, but they've only got one available. And that means it's a one-way trip for Sleeping and a long run back. And this is perfect for Millenium. Look at how they're letting the bottom lane push out. The difficulty is Suno is also trying to push in response to stop Pretty from being able to roam down.
So clever play from Suno to keep Pretty at least on the back foot. He will lose either a lot of damage to the tower.
sorry, that interaction was so key. Pretty was looking for a red card because he wanted to hit all of the minions and have it push back away on this next push. Here goes Pretty. He's roaming to blue. Okay.
Let's take a look. It's not over yet, though. Unlimited, he's been caught. Destiny's being channeled. Unlimited and Vardex went far too deep. Pretty decides to peel away, go for the secure kill, and it is picked up onto Unlimited.
That's almost exactly as expected from this Twisted Fate. Sleeping didn't even use his ult because it looked like the call was that they were going on Vardex, and Vardex got out of there alive. Janna was completely dead at that situation, running into a jungler as well. Hansama had got up, so there was no key target to get that Shen ultimate on to turn that fight around, so he actually sits on it. SK with 3 globals do not defend against the first TF ult.
No, they couldn't. Up in the top lane, Kaze and Sleeping, they're going to toe-to-toe. On the mini-map, there was an exchange in the middle lane. I can see Doko's flash has actually been used, so I feel like he had been caught out somewhat. We'll find out in just a second. Decides to re-engage. This is exactly why you pick an assassin into Twisted Fate. Easy kill. Pretty had used his flash, and that was rinse and repeat all day, every day.
Yeah, even got his ignite there. Pretty tried to take somebody down at the same time, but he just didn't have the damage this early on. He's even opting for the Rod of Ages build that has somewhat become more popular on TF. We very rarely see TF these days, but generally when we do, people are going for that tankier build, for that added damage. Bottom lane, Pink Ward is there. Master goes in.
Unlimited gets caught by the headbutt. It'll eat an entire culling. Stand United will deliver Sleeping to the party. Too late. It did not finish. Got so close. Masterwork.
Oh, he's got the ult.
Will down. They're going to keep chasing the pretty little butterfly and send him flying all the way home with a surprise twist. Hunt Summer stays alive. Suno's going to bring some fishy business for dinner. A dash over the wall for Hansama, and
they're running
Suno's
into
got
Italy.
a flash. He might want to chase. Doko throws out the javelin, and he flashes it! Hansama stays alive! Doko gets caught out against the wall. A hammer to the face, knocks everyone up in the air, and Suno tries to get a reply back. But a level up will keep Millenium in the lead with a phenomenal passage of play.
Oh, the reaction flash. I think it was blind with no vision on the spear coming through. We'd have to double check on the replay if we can get the vision toggle there to see exactly what Hansama saw during that engage. He had the flash and the heal available, so flashes over the spear, tries to save his support, running back in for the heal. They did end up losing Masterwork during that engage, but they get a turret, they get multiple kills, and this is the Millenium that we saw in weeks 1 to 3.
And this is the Millenium that wants to attempt to reclaim control on the top of the table, if only temporarily. So here's a replay, starting from
all
very
the
good
way
engage.
back. So again, it's the Pink Ward. This is the problem for SK in this 2 versus 2, is they are not ever respecting their opponents. Sleeping's ult comes onto a squishy target, and so many shields were used to try and keep the Janna alive. Masterwork didn't even have to pop his ult until now. This is just decent tanking under the turret. It does actually swap over to Hansama, which ultimately makes this a little bit more tricky here. Suno TP's in because he expects them to come up through the tri-bush and out. Hansama smartly holding his ward, drops it over, ease up.
Vision?
So here's the vision from...
Wow.
So he did just about see it coming through. Oh man, that was a good passage of play from Millenium. So not quite as reactionary from Hansama, but still a great flash nonetheless.
Yeah, really heads up. So Hansama ends up 2-0-3. Pretty on that Twist of Fate 2-1-0-1. And despite Fizz getting a really good, really well-coordinated kill in the middle lane as a, like, almost hard counter pick, it all gets undone because of the global impact of the Destiny plus teleports.
And it's the ability to, you know, really focus on this Kog'Maw in his weakest point. Right now, look at it. Blasting Wand Pickaxe. This is doing hardly anything for Vardex as itemization. Against Hansama, you've got a BF sword, you've got the Warhammer. All of these things are empowering Hansama's ability significantly. Yes, it does stay the same for Vardex, but he's not getting that massive boost of attack speed yet that Gwinsu's will give him. Top lane, Sleeping should be able to dash away. That was the Destiny used from Pretty. But again, all of these things are just burning some of the globals that are coming out of SK. This time, Millenium didn't get too much from it.
No, they really didn't. That Spirit's Refuge from Shen working out in his favor a whole lot. And manages to save his... Whoa. Look at minimap. That was weird. So Sleeping accidentally channeled his teleports onto a Nexus turret. Cancelled it. Yep, cancelled it. I can see it's on cooldown.
Yeah, it is on cooldown. That's so weird.
Well, remember, pressure, pressure. He's come in to replace Morsu 2 weeks ago. Feeling the burn.
So I wonder whether this was just a mechanical error, like he was trying to type. That something was unavailable. Destiny would be the only thing I could think of.
Destiny,
bottom lane, Joko.
Pressing D, flash away from Vardax. Joko's going to knock Unlimited back. Stands United, brings Sleeping in. Suno will look for a Fat Man. The Fish will get eaten by Masterwork. That prevents it connecting with the Joko. A disconnect as Masterwork continues to run away. Unbreakable will keep him alive for enough time for Pretty to get there. But Millenium are split up. 2 on the bottom, 2 in the river. And Millenium survived, maintaining their 4,000 gold lead.
That was actually a clean exit from Millenium, so rather than blasting Vardags and Unlimited towards the rest of Millenium, they knew that Shen teleport was coming through. Sleeping, they don't want to get taunted by him under the turret, so they use the Greg Assault defensively and managed to escape with everybody. That was SK committing all 5 people to the bottom lane. Top lane, Kaze managed to shove it into tower. Will be able to now look to maybe get more pressure out on the map.
And there are no globals available for SK Gaming. Teleport is up for Kaze. The Destiny is available for Pretty. If they wanted a tower dive, this would be the time to do it. There's a ward in behind. It's like reading a perfect playbook. Millenium arrive for the party. Vardax avoids the stun and the hammer. Pretty comes down with the gold card as Unlimited's trying to get away. The barrel sends him packing. And an easy kill for Millenium. They're not done yet. Doko's caught. Pulverized, gold carded, bashed against the wall. And the hammer sends him to the fountain. 3 kills for Millenium.
Millenium are reading the global misplays from SK every single time. This time it was the 5-man bot lane party from Millenium utilizing their comp, and again they come up with so much from it. They get towers, they get kills, 8 kills to 2 overall, and everything has been going Millenium's way from the very beginning of this game, and it's all from the way SK have misused their globals.
And to go back to picks and bans, the first pick cog, I called it a bait because I felt if you let that through as a team banning Braum, there are some answers. Millenium are showing very clearly against SK that their teamwork and their composition can clearly punish the weak areas of Cogmore.
I am, however, having fairly significant flashbacks. This game state is somewhat similar to the G2 Fnatic game from this past week's LCS. Millenium making good diving plays. This is what their composition wants to do right now. They've got the Poppy, the Alistar, the Gragas, the TF. Everything is made for this. And it works out. We didn't really see Hanshammer picking up this kill early on, but you can just see it's a straightforward dive onto that Cogmore under the turret. Now, this has to turn around in my mind of like, LCS, the biggest thing we had was that the teams playing Cogmore were gifted ways back into the game by their opponents making enough of a singular mistake to turn a game around. Fnatic G2 was the Baron, where Trick ended up dying behind it. I don't think that kind of thing is going to happen to Millenium, but if they get slowed down, we've seen that a Cogmore gets unstoppable.
It is a ticking time bomb. I think Doko actually smited away the Raptor there. Ticking time bomb because eventually Cogmore comes online. It will take a long time. Rage Blade only just completed at 15 minutes and down
just
50
about 50.
CS?
Nearly 60, yeah. As soon as that hits 148, that's 60 CS difference, which earlier in the game would have been what Reckless was down in that Fnatic G2 matchup. So people are going to say, why are you drawing comparisons to that matchup? Just because I'm not normally this optimistic about being able to come back into a game. But the pick alone kind of scares me right now because I don't really have the judge on how strong it is as the game goes on.
Stress is
I know it's very
scared
strong.
of Cogmore.
I am, because it's such a monumentally strong pick the later the game goes.
Well, Sleeping is going to get caught out in the jungle. Maybe that's not the right word. Will dash through Joko, pulls in the support of the rest of the SK squad. This could turn into be something explosive as Millenium don't have their entire complement of players. Pretty also has to move all the way from the river. He's not nearby. Teleport's available for Suno, so the tension is beginning to build up. but there's no dive just yet.
But the opening is opening. The opening is there for Millenium as they can dive now.
The opening is open and Unlimited is closed. The verdict throws Sleeping up into the air and a defensive flash away. Suno's able to teleport to the tower before getting knocked against the wall and defensively flashing out. Kaze pins him against the wall and Suno will be feeding the fishes tonight. They turn their attention to the Caterpillar and it's a menagerie as he is squashed under the boot of Millenium. It is a killing spree for Kaze. Doko will at least get one back onto Hunt Summer. Some global gold with that shutdown before he gives up what was milliseconds away from being an ace.
Oh, so it does end up going in favor of Millenium. And if I could get my words out, what I was trying to say, Trevor, is that with Kog'Maw in the middle lane, you can dive topside because they just don't have the damage to deal with it. Vadax did manage to come across just for the second half of that fight, but Millenium are so far ahead with this composition that they are not worried. Here, look at the map. Kog'Maw's only just crossing through the jungle, so Unlimited is gone already. So is Sleeping. They're turning their attention onto Suno, who teleports in. There was no damage up until this point for SK, and they're forcing so many flashes, so many ults, the shields, everything SK are throwing at this fight, and none of it is going on Vadax, because Vadax doesn't have the damage yet to hold this game. Really, really weird play by SK to try and continue to fight.
Yeah, and Millenium just showing how coordinated their team really is. Punishing every opening of an opening.
Damn it! Damn it, Trevor! I was going to say the window is opening, but I was like, opening is also another way of saying that there is a gap.
So, I really enjoy working on Challenger. For anybody that's watching, I sometimes like work behind the camera. And if ever you hear those like funny replays of the weird lines that you and Pulse have said from time to time, I'm the guy yelling, put that in the video clip. So maybe we'll get an opening of openings to you know, end off the day straight.
Maybe we can open the rollout with it.
Yeah, we'll find out. So from the replay, we jump back into the game. Millenium, 13 kills to 3. We're about to hit the time where SK could surrender.
Oh.
And we have an unfortunate situation. We can only apologize about that one, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, this is an awkward opening of an opening at this point. So,
as I was saying, Millenium had an 8,000 gold lead.
Heading back into the game,
yeah,
we will find out what more information is to be picked up here. So we are rejoining the game at 21 minutes on the clock here. So this is a little bit later than we had left the game. We just left it after Millenium dive top.
Yes, and to just give a quick update on...
Oh, we've jumped back in time. Time travel.
We have jumped back in time. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in game for SK taking on Millenium. Part of the reason is why we are in different times. Obviously, we are running slightly behind where the live players were. So we've managed to find a computer with the replay client still working, and we will conclude this game as expected. Millenium have been very, very far ahead of their opponents.
Okay, stick with us, guys. It's a little bit temperamental, as we did have multiple observer machines heading off. This was something on the radar, but we have the game. We are back. We are ready. And you've had a spoiler a little bit, so somebody managed to get some extra powers. 13
to 3 with an 8K
hey man, it's still spoilers. What is it with my play-by-plays liking spoilers? Like, I'm fine with it.
Essence Reaver, Rapid Fire Cannon, and Lucy Boots. There is no way that you're going to bounce this back. Destiny
goodbye,
down
Suno.
Bottom, gold card onto Suno. Sleeping's teleported in, will connect the taunts. Steadfast Presence is down, flash away from Pretty, finds a gold card. Two-man knock up into the wild cards for the finish. It's not done yet, boys. Here comes Joko. The taunt is bodged as Pretty goes golden. Sleeping can't even find Twisted Fate. He tangos his way out of threat and recalls with the Herald buff. Millenium aren't done yet. They're going to continue sieging this inner turret. And
this is fine, though. SK can even just stand in front of mid-tower and take it. They're losing a bottom inner right now. The fact that Pretty has Zhonya's Hourglass, if there wasn't already kind of a seal on this game, means he appears. Gold cards Vadax. Vadax gets knocked back by either Joko or Kaze in these team fights. Sonya's goes on, Millenium win the team fight pretty much straight up. This is such a big lead.
20 minutes and the inhibitor is dropping. 10,000 gold lead. Millenium continue to find the fights and use their globals more effectively.
Yeah, Millenium have averaged an increase of 500 gold every minute in this game on SK. That is a massive amount of difference between these two teams. Now they're looking not to stop here. They're looking to go mid lane from it. You can't underestimate the ability for a TF to push as well.
Oh, wow. Kaze takes a lot of damage from Suno. Chum the Waters will find its target. No, the shot goes up. A 3-man knockup. That was masterwork from the support, Alistair. Sleeping finds a taunt to Joko and Hans Summer, but he's being burned through. Kaze decides to rejoin as the Kalik will not kill Unlimited. Howling Gale throws Joko up into the air, and Sleeping is the only victim of the fight, with the exception of that inner turret, which Millenium were happy to take as well.
And I honestly have to look back at the picks and bans phase and look at what was available for SK, look at what they actually chose and what they gave over to Millenium. They kind of got baited into this Kog'Maw composition against the diving comp. And I don't know how I feel about this. If SK weren't really addressing the situation of things that can deal with Kog'Maw, and then don't have the biggest amount of peel for themselves. They have Shen, they have Janna, but it just doesn't work against this much engage. SK did not really account for this, not inevitability, but this situation.
Yeah, and it also doesn't help that they fell so far behind so early. You know, Vardags and Unlimited, I have to double check, but I think the first kills that they gave up were just overextending in that bottom lane. It was for farm, and the lane was pushing away from them, so it's tough. Kaze's going to get caught out here by Suno and Doko, but will use the Keeper's Verdict to stay alive.
Keep in mind, it was a level 2 engage that got the initial summoners. They got 3 summoners from Unlimited and Vardags, and then Vardags and Unlimited were just playing aggressive in the bottom lane, or at least far up in the lane. When Kog'Maw Janna can sit back, it's theoretically a lane that is fairly difficult to punish because of the way Janna shield works, especially from the likes of an Alistair, who typically suffers in double ranged matchups into him. The problem is Hans Sammer and Masterwork were effectively trading through the Janna shield because they got the level advantage and were able to start their own fights.
They had great target selection whenever they decided to engage, and they managed to make it work. 22.5 minutes, Super's down bottom. Vardags has just peeled away. Millenium have got so much damage to work with. Baron is burned down to below 50%. Sleeping has arrived, will not be able to find anyone to taunt, and the call is to peel. Millenium have backed away. Defensive flashes and Millenium have been split, but I think they're still too far ahead for it to matter. Hans Sama and Pretty are taking in 4 members of SK Gaming. Hans Sama is still alive. The knockback into the pit allows him to stay up. Unlimited is going to be kicking himself for days. Finally, they get Hans Sama down, but Doko is pinned against the wall. It is a 1-for-3. Kaze will run down Unlimited, the man who effectively saved Hans Sama, and if Baron is the call, Millenium can take it easily. It looks like they're going to peel for Inhibitor instead.
Yeah, it looks like they were just trying to clear out the jungle and maybe push mid lane up, but I don't think they've got enough pushing power here. The bottom lane, however, is already dealing damage to those Nexus turrets. Sleeping, he didn't have to teleport in to save this one, but he will be able to clear it out. He's already used 1 TP on those Nexus turrets this game, but SK continue to just get outplayed in these team fights by Millenium.
Now, tower number 8 falls. Inhibitor exposed. Inner turret top is being pushed in by Kaze. Millenium, they can just rinse and repeat. 14k gold lead. They can just play the Baron game until SK, are forced to check.
At this point, TF tells them that Kog'Maw's not here. They know there's no damage still in this fight until Suno shows up, doesn't hit his ultimate, and that's a fairly key factor here for diving on top of Pretty. You need to be able to lock him down and avoid the gold card. Here's the sequence you were talking about with Unlimited and Hans Sama. Sleeping can't follow. Suno doesn't manage to get it either. And Millenium just continually outplay SK.
Such a difficult situation. Can't imagine that this game will take too much longer to close out. Millenium have been ruthless with their tower dives. 20 kills to 4. We're averaging a kill a minute, and they're almost exclusively SK Gaming's deaths. Millenium, let's see, they set themselves up Pretty in the jungle. Hourglass at the ready, Destiny available. Let's see, wound up the gold card, and Doko, oh, you are...
He's gone.
Yeah, okay, go. Back to the base. That's what Millenium will be saying.
Here it goes again.
Yeah. You know, I've been trying to force it in there.
No treadmills on this one.
Oh, I couldn't. I prefer the low gravity flight video, the most recent one, actually. Yeah.
I actually didn't see that. I saw people talking about how good it was.
Super cool. We'll find out if anybody has seen that music video.
Oh, I'm sure lots of people do.
Don't forget, you should be voting. Hashtag MILWin if you think they're going to win, or hashtag SKWin if you think they're going to pull it back.
Hashtag tiebreakers win if that's what you're looking for.
Yep. You need this series to be a draw for the potential 10 games, the dream. Doco going to get caught up by the Howling Gale. I think this is just a matter of time. In actual fact, I think time is up. Yeah. Millenium grouped up onto the Nexus turret. Kaze gets Suno and Vardax knocked up into the air with the verdict. Sleeping connects with a taunt this time round, but it will not matter. On the back line, Hans Summer's taking down the towers, and Suno, he sends the fish way wide. Nobody from Millenium is hungry enough just yet, because they've been fed all game long. They will kill Unlimited shortly. A peel away from Millenium, padding the stats, the kill score, trying to take down everybody from SK Gaming. The dive on the fountain! Kaze finds him, and they're not done yet. There'll be a double kill for Doco, but it is nothing that matters. Millenium, in 26 minutes, crush SK Gaming.
Really convincing game, and the strengths of Millenium showed once again. And the weaknesses of SK reared their heads again. And honestly, when the strengths of Millenium are in direct comparison and conflict to SK's weaknesses in that bottom lane, it's so difficult to make a comp like that work. You know, we discussed in the lead-in, if you can get the TF snowballing bot lane around that 6 to 8 minute mark, just as you got those ultimates available, SK should theoretically be able to defend it with their TPs, but they didn't. Yeah. They used the TPs already, mistakenly used a Shen TP, the ult wasn't quite fast enough. Like, all of these things tied into each other that SK just couldn't defend that situation. And then, oh, surprise, Hansama just gets so far ahead.
And this is one of those situations where you have to step back and go, where did the TP plays go wrong? Was it individual calls? Was it overall strategy? Was it a shot caller? Was it an individual player? Because the cause problem is very difficult to resolve when you only have a few minutes now between game 1 and game 2. Sleeping, that was the first time on Shen where he did not look comfortable. And maybe it's because of the opponent. I mean, look, he played last week against one team, so I'm, you know, hamming this up a little bit. But it did not feel like he was hitting his taunts, did not feel like he was in the right place at the right time.
That is fairly fair. And, you know, we're going to have to answer that with the second game, though. We are in best of 2s. Yeah. So maybe we'll have a tie before some tiebreakers. Yeah, we'll have to find out. For you guys at home, we are going to take a 5-minute ad break just to investigate exactly what went wrong with those spectator machines. As soon as we're back, we'll let you know.